I suppose I've been spoilt in previous marathon build-ups. Hello and welcome. The high mileage weeks are done and it's now taper time, where I gradually reduce the mileage and ease back on the effort to prepare myself ready for the big day on September 29th. However, this first week of taper isn't exactly an easy week, with the big final BAC session and then a race at the weekend, the Worcester 10K. My legs felt pretty tired when I woke up on Monday morning, following a big session the day before, including the Chippenham Half Marathon at marathon pace. Once I got out there, they got going nicely and the heart rate was nice and low too. I felt a bit tired generally through the day, almost as if I had a head cold coming on, so I opted to drop my afternoon recovery run. As Ben Rosario, coach at NAZ Elite, says, no one ever wishes they ran more during the taper. Tuesday was an easy run along the canal, although dropping back to just 10 miles this time. It felt really good, the legs were decent and the heart rate was nice and low, and I averaged 7:15 per mile. Afterwards I felt like I had just the vague suggestion of a head cold. It could have just been taper paranoia, but I made sure I got a nice early night to hopefully prepare myself ready for the big final BAC session the next day. Typically, after several pretty cool still days, Wednesday brought with it a lot more wind and a lot more warmth. Still, there wasn't much I could do about it. Thankfully, after feeling a little tired the past few days, I woke up feeling pretty good. The session is a bit of a monster, 30 minutes at marathon pace, then 4x5 minutes at lactate threshold, followed by another 30 minutes at marathon pace. The first marathon pace section felt okay, although it came out a little off pace at 6:22 per mile. However, the wind was quite strong at times, up to 30-mile-an-hour gusts according to the forecast, and that definitely didn't help. The 5-minute intervals were much better, averaging 5:46 per mile, which is a touch faster than I did before Manchester. Given the breezy conditions, I was pretty happy with that. Unfortunately, by this point, my stomach was feeling a bit grumbly, and I needed to make an urgent toilet stop. Thankfully, my flat was close by. Given that my stomach wasn't too happy, and conscious that I didn't want to dig too deep before the 10K at the weekend, I decided to drop the final 30 minutes at marathon pace. Given I'd ran 13 miles at marathon pace just a few days before, it was no great loss. If I didn't have the 10K, I might have tried to push on, knowing I'd have plenty of time to recover. But given I had the race, I didn't want to overcook myself. Despite missing that last marathon pace section, it was still a decent workout, averaging 6:30 per mile for 13 miles. It felt odd on Thursday to be heading out for just 5 miles at recovery pace in the morning. I cracked open a fresh pair of my favourite recovery shoe, the Adidas Supernova Glides, as the FOD runner show the night before about shoes had reminded me that I had quite a few miles in the 2 pairs I currently have in rotation. I've got through at least 10 pairs of these over the years, and I love them for gentler runs as they're cushioned without being too soft or heavy. They discontinued this model a few years ago now, and the replacement wasn't much good, but thankfully I managed to stock up on half-price pairs. However, my stockpile is now down to just 1 new pair, so I need to look for a replacement soon. If you have any suggestions, leave a comment below. Anyway, the morning recovery felt good, so I decided to run my afternoon recovery that I dropped from Monday. I did this at the gym on the treadmill, followed by a sauna session of 15 minutes. Various studies have shown that taking saunas or hot baths can help boost your blood plasma and acclimatise you to heat. Given that the current forecast for Berlin is looking a touch warm, up to about 20 degrees by midday when I hope to finish, it's not much fun. After a few minutes in the sauna it can get quite uncomfortable and claustrophobic, but given all the training hours I've put in, a few more minutes in the sauna is worth enduring for the potential benefits. I'm starting out at 15 minutes, but I'll aim to up this next week as I get more used to it. Friday was another cool morning and a beautiful sunrise. The legs felt really good and the heart rate was nice and low for another easy 10 along the canal, averaging 7:14 per mile this time. I had a client event on Friday, which meant a lot of extra time on my feet, which wasn't ideal. However, I did manage to keep the drinking to just a few gin and tonics, so that's something. I definitely won't be drinking until after Berlin now, although I'll definitely make up for it then. Saturday was just 5 miles recovery, with a few strides thrown in to wake up the legs ready for the next day. It felt good, although the optical based heart rate monitor went a bit wonky during the strides as it always does. The strides felt good, and they were at a decent pace, especially considering I was wearing the Supernovas, which aren't the quickest shoe in the world. And so to Sunday for the Worcester 10k. I couldn't really get a much more local race. The start line is just 400 metres from where I sit right now, and in fact the course runs just below that balcony. It meant I could get up relatively late and run my warm-up along my usual river route before watching my nephew run the Kids Mile event and then heading down to the start line for my race. I set my current PB, 36:12, at this race 2 years ago, so although I wasn't as fresh as ideal, with 2 big sessions in the past 7 days, as well as a lot of miles in my legs, I was hopeful I might be able to sneak under 36 minutes. I started out well. The effort felt hard but under control, and about right for a 10k. I went through 5k in 17:50 and the legs were still feeling strong. Unfortunately though, by this stage I was out on my own, with a few people a little further ahead, but no one around to work with. I slowed a little in the next few kilometres as I navigated the slightly twisty section around Diglas. I'm not quick around corners at the best of times, and even less so in Vaporflies. However, my watch reckoned I was still on for sub 36 at 8k. Unfortunately, I then began to develop a stitch. It started to affect my breathing, and I slowed a little. I battled on as best I could, but frustratingly, while the legs felt like they had more to give, I just couldn't push with the stitch and the resulting tightened breathing. My pace and heart rate dropped off, and that sub 36 slipped away. I ended up finishing in 36:35, which is my fastest 10k since that PB 2 years ago, but not the time I was hoping for or felt I was capable of. Still, I knew I wasn't as fresh as ideal going in, so in that context it's far from terrible, and a decent workout if nothing else. Nonetheless, I can't help but feel a little disappointed. I ran an extended warm down after the race to finish up my final longish run. I was pleased to find the legs, while a little tired, felt pretty decent, which further confirmed that they'd have had more to give if it wasn't for that stitch. Between the warm-up, warm-down and 10k, it made for just under 18 miles, averaging 6:41 per mile. So while the 10k might not have been quite what I was after, it was certainly good marathon training overall. So there we go, first week of taper done. While the intensity certainly didn't reduce, the mileage definitely did, with just over 70 miles racked up. That might sound like a lot, but compared to the 120-ish I was doing, it feels like nothing. All the big sessions and warm-up races are done now, so it's time to wind things down, ready for the big day at Berlin. I'm left not quite sure how to feel about things really. Objectively, the training's gone really well. I averaged over 100 miles per week for the 12 weeks leading up to the taper, despite an enforced weekend off a few weeks back. I've matched or exceeded the paces I was producing prior to Manchester last year in everything from easy runs to 10k intervals. And other than the minor blip caused by my trip, I haven't missed any sessions or had any real issues. On the other hand, it's slightly frustrating that in the last few races, I haven't been able to convert that great training into a PB. In both cases, I wasn't as fresh as ideal due to prioritising certain marathon sessions. I definitely don't regret that, as Berlin has always been the main goal. However, it would have been a nice confidence boost to put in a good performance. I suppose I've been spoilt in previous marathon build-ups, where I've always made big jumps in fitness and had good races where I've produced PBs. This time around, it's been more about coming back from injury and getting back to the fitness I was at, which means the PBs haven't come so easily. Still, when I consider that 12 weeks ago I ran a really hard 10k and only managed to dip just under 38 minutes, it shows how far my fitness has come. I need to take confidence from the fact that my training's at or exceeding the level I was at before Manchester last year. If that training converted to a 2:45:06 marathon back then, there's no reason why it shouldn't again this time. And hopefully the flat, fast Berlin course is worth those extra 7 seconds. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe to my channel to follow my journey towards the Berlin Marathon. And if you have any questions or anything you'd like me to discuss in future videos, please let me know in the comments below. Cheers.